Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to go ahead and pull out the meats that we need for this week to make dinners. That way we aren't scrambling to make sure we have all of the right food and all of the right meat on hand. I like to pull out our meats at the beginning of the week, and they have time to thaw in the fridge, and then I don't have to worry and scramble throughout the week to figure out what it is that we want to eat. We're going to look into our first freezer, and it's our stand-up freezer. I know I want to make pork chops this week. I know I want to make kielbasa and rice, so I need to pull out some kielbasa. We need pork, kielbasa, we're going to make fish, we are going to make chicken wings, and we are going to make tacos, so I need ground meat for that as well. Okay, so let me go ahead and pull out I'm going to pull out some walleye, some honey mustard pork chops, I didn't bring out a package, something to put all these chicken wings in, so I'll take this upstairs, divvy out the chicken wings that I want, and then I'll bring this bag back down. We've got kielbasa, and then all of our ground meat is in the chest freezer, so let's go grab that. This is currently where I'm housing all of my tomatoes until I'm ready to process them. So we've got a little bit of digging to do. We've got some ground elk for our tacos. And now we're just going to take this all upstairs, set it in the fridge, and we're going to divvy up those chicken wings, and then we are ready to cook meals for the rest of the week this week. Today we are going to be starting a 5-day series on quick and easy weeknight meals that you can throw together whenever you are in a hurry or in a pinch. And these are going to be a little bit different than the last set of meals that I showed you that were great, easy weeknight dinners. And they can all be adapted, they can all be tailored to your needs. So today's dish, I don't actually know if it has a name. It's something my parents made, and now it's something that I make, and me and Reed really enjoy it. And basically it is diced kielbasa, chopped up vegetables. Usually we put onions, garlic, diced bell peppers, and today I'm gonna throw in some diced zucchini. And in previous years, I have gone ahead and thrown in mushrooms, and we're gonna saute that up in a pan, and then we are gonna put it on top of some cooked white rice. So the first thing we're gonna get going is the rice, so that way the rice can be cooking while we're dicing up our vegetables and slicing up the kielbasa. Once we get everything diced, it's simply throwing it into a pan, sauteing it up, browning it, and getting it cooked, and it's ready to go. So it doesn't take a whole lot of effort, not a whole lot of steps here, just getting all the ingredients ready to go. So first, we're only gonna make about, let me figure out what else we're having this week. I may make 2 cups of rice and use some of the leftover rice from this meal, and we can have it for leftovers later this week with another meal that we're going to make. So for 2 cups of cooked rice, you need 1 cup of dry rice. And we've got a 1/2 cup measuring spoon right here. Oh, whoops. We don't need 1.5 cups of uncooked rice. So we'll set that aside, scoop on top, and then we're gonna rinse this, and then we're gonna fill it with twice the amount of water, and we're gonna get it going in our rice cooker. Okay, The rice is cooking, and now we're gonna go ahead and get our vegetables diced up along with the kielbasa. So we need a cutting board, and we need a sharp knife. And then I've got this bowl right here, and I'm gonna throw all of our vegetables in here. And I am gonna throw bell peppers into this dish, but I already have them pre-sliced and they are in the freezer, and when I'm ready for them, I'll just pull them out of the freezer and dump them into the hot pan. Ooh. It still smells okay, but that's really funky. Does anybody know why the zucchini did that? It doesn't stink, so I'm gonna keep using it. Okay, next we're gonna dice up our onion. This bowl for all of our scraps. I have a garden and we make our own compost with any of our kitchen scraps, so I'm just going to save this stuff and then we can throw it into the compost so it can go to next year's garden. And we're only going to use about half of this onion. The other half will store in the fridge. And we're going to get this diced. And the last thing I want to get ready to go is this garlic, and this is homegrown garlic, so that's why it's super tiny. And so we're going to get this prepped, and then we'll have garlic, and all of our vegetables will be ready for dinner. And because these cloves are so small, I'm actually going to go ahead and use my garlic press, and we're not going to dice it. We'll just use the garlic press and we'll call it a day. The garlic's going to go in later anyways because we don't want to burn it. It burns really easily. It'll be one of the last things we add. Got the garlic press for my garlic for later. We're gonna set this aside. And this kielbasa, it is Teton Waters Ranch kielbasa. You can use any kind of kielbasa you want. You could also probably substitute any other kind of meat that suits your interest. But I like kielbasa, and when my parents would make it, they would make it with kielbasa. Then all we're going to do is we're going to give the kielbasa a good slice. We're just going to do thin slices because the kielbasa is technically already cooked. We're just heating it through and giving it a little bit of a brown. Okay, so now our kielbasa is sliced. All of our veggies are ready to go. We're going to get the skillet heating up with some oil, and then we're going to throw the onions and the squash in first. That way they can start the cooking process, and then we'll throw in the bell peppers, and the last things we're going to add to that are going to be the kielbasa and the garlic. Alright, we're going to turn it to about a medium heat. And I've got some quality avocado oil right here. You can use any kind of oil you would like. I just want to use up this avocado oil, so we're just going to douse the bottom of the pan with it. We're gonna get the skillet heated up just a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and add our vegetables. Okay. And I've got this entire reusable bag worth of bell peppers that are sliced and diced, and so we will also be adding this to the skillet when it is warmed up. This seems nice and warm. We're gonna throw these veggies in. We're gonna throw the frozen veggies in as well. You can also make this a vegetarian dish and add all the veggies that you want to it. I just need to make sure I'm getting as much protein as possible. We are meat eaters in this house, so we always have protein with our meals, if we can help it. I'm going to throw some salt on here because it'll force some of the vegetables to release their moisture. I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit more than medium. And I'm going to get the lid to help get this to cook, especially with those frozen peppers in there. And then this bowl that I had the zucchini and the onions in, I'm going to keep it set to the side. That way, once I get the vegetables all browned up, I can transfer them to here while I brown up the meat, and then we'll mix everything back together. You can keep the vegetables in here when you add the meat. It'll take longer to get the browning on your kielbasa, and I want the browning to happen rather quickly. It'll save us some time in the long run. And because the peppers were frozen and because the zucchini is raw, this is probably going to take at least a solid 10 to 15 minutes right here. But getting the rice ready to go and getting the vegetables prepped took about 5 minutes. And then another 10 minutes here. This is an easy 30-minute meal that you can throw together on nights that you're busy, and you can use almost any vegetable that you have on hand as long as you think it sounds good together. I mentioned earlier I've made this dish with spaghetti squash instead of rice. The caveat to that is cooking spaghetti squash takes far longer to do than cooking rice does, and it's a little bit more of a process, but it is absolutely delicious, especially if you're on the low carb, no rice. I highly recommend you give it a shot with some good spaghetti squash, because cooking up the spaghetti squash and then topping it with these vegetables and the meat was also really, really good. I've thrown mushrooms in here. I think I've thrown carrots in here. I always throw bell peppers in here. This is the first time I'm throwing zucchini in here, and I have zero doubts that it's going to turn out really good. Okay, so now we've got a lot of moisture in the bottom of this pan because the vegetables have released some of their moisture, and the peppers have now thawed, so they also released a fair amount of moisture. So I'm going to keep the lid off now, and I'm going to let everything brown on up. But the smell, even just vegetables with onion, smells amazing. Okay, so most of the vegetables are completely cooked through, so now we're going to go ahead and add our garlic. Because garlic is actually rather delicate and you don't want to overcook it. It burns pretty quickly. We're going to let the garlic heat up and heat through a little bit. Our rice just popped, and so the rice is ready to go. So I'm gonna unplug it, and then after a minute or two, we're gonna transfer this into the dish we have the zucchini and the onions in. We're gonna brown the kielbasa, and then we're gonna combine all of those ingredients back into the pan. We're gonna put the rice on our plates, and then we're gonna top it with our veggie and meat mixture. We're gonna add just a little bit more oil to the pan. And now we're gonna throw in our kielbasa. I'm just going ahead and making sure that all of the slices separate so I can get an even browning on all sides. Our kielbasa has some nice browning on it. We're going to go ahead and throw our vegetables back in, and then we're going to finish seasoning it on up. So we're gonna add just like a dash of red pepper flakes. Hopefully that wasn't too much. I definitely put too much one day, and it was noticeable. I'm probably doing close to about half a teaspoon of oregano. And then we're just going to add a bunch of pepper. Also, if you don't have fresh garlic on hand or fresh onion, you can always substitute onion powder and garlic powder. I have both on hand, so that is what I used today. And I wanted to demonstrate that even with fresh garlic and fresh onions, this can all still be done in 30 minutes time. So dinner is ready. I turned off the burner. I am going to go ahead and dish up a little bit, and we'll try it together, and then I'm going to call Reed down so he and I can have dinner. There we go, and this is what dinner is gonna look like. And so now let's give it a nice taste test. It's very hot, but this is it can be a very low carb meal. It can be a very nutritious meal. You can make this meal with stuff that you grew in your own garden if you are a gardener. And you can either have it be a meat protein meal, or you can keep it a vegetarian meal. You can also make it low carb with no rice and substitute just all vegetables. The options are endless, and this is a meal that I actually really like falling back on when I need something easy. So let's give this a taste test. Grab a little bit of kielbasa, maybe, and a piece of squash. It's just got a little bit of heat, perfect amount of heat. I could probably give it a little bit more salt, but overall, the vegetables are delicious. I may actually add a little bit more vegetables to here, and we're gonna go ahead and eat our dinner for tonight. and I will see you guys tomorrow for Taco Tuesday. What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday, and so tonight we are getting ready for taco night. I am going to go ahead and make us a garden fresh salsa to go with this. It's not super convenient to make your own garden fresh salsa, so that's just an added thing. But tacos in general can be a really quick and easy meal to make. On nights that you're in a pinch, you don't need a lot. You need some sort of meat, tortillas, unless you want to make a taco salad, and then just lettuce, tomatoes, cheese, any other kind of fixings that you like with your tacos. That's all you need. But honestly, most nights I just do ground meat, cheese. If we're lucky, we have tomatoes, lettuce, some diced onions. It's usually very, very simple. On days I'm feeling like going above and beyond, I'll make my own guacamole, I'll make my own salsa, and we'll have sour cream and hot sauces, and we'll throw pickled onions and all that on there. So it's really adaptable to what you have on hand. Tacos can be very, very basic, or you can make them incredibly extravagant, which is also why I like them for a nice, quick weeknight meal, because even if I don't have tortillas, I can turn it into nachos. So a very versatile meal for tonight. I'm gonna go ahead and make salsa, and I figured I'd just take you along with me, show you how I make some garden fresh salsa, and if you find that helpful and beneficial, it's a bonus. First, I'm going to go ahead and get some of my tomatoes washed up and sliced up. Some of them have some bad spots on them, and I don't know if the whole tomato is going to be impacted or if I can just cut that off, so we'll find out. But I have some tomatoes that need to be used up. This one's starting to get really soft on me. I also have some peppers that need to be used up, otherwise I need to throw them in the freezer. I have in this mixture of tomatoes, this is, I believe, an Amish paste tomato. This is, I believe, an Amish paste tomato. These things get massive, just absolutely ginormous. And I think these are also an Amish paste tomato, and I think this guy resulted from two tomatoes growing together. And then I've got little Roma tomatoes. I've got some freeze-dried cilantro. I'm just going to soak it in a little bit of lemon juice, and then I'll mix it in with everything else. So first I'm gonna go ahead and get my tomatoes sliced and diced. So we're just gonna go ahead, cut you in half. Ooh. Yeah, it's a really nice meaty tomato, which is perfect for garden fresh salsa. And when you're cutting tomatoes, you always want to make sure you have a sharp knife, but especially for tomatoes, because they're so soft, you want that knife to be sharp so you're not squishing the tomatoes, you're actually cutting them. This is what the inside of that Amish paste tomato looks like. Very good sauce making tomato. And it's going to be great for this salsa. Let's see if any of these other ones look like they need to be used. This guy's feeling a little soft, so I'm just going to use up this guy, and then we'll save the rest of them for another time. So now I'm going to go ahead. I had half of an onion in the fridge. We're going to see if this half of an onion is enough for this salsa. So we're going to get it diced. And then I have some peppers that need to be used up. I don't know how hot they are, so it's gonna be a gamble. These are already washed, so we'll find out. Let me take a sliver of this, and I'm gonna find out how hot this jalapeno is. I think that's a mild jalapeno. Okay. Means we can use up more than one. Garden, homegrown jalapenos have a tendency to be incredibly hot. And so it's always a gamble, and you just never know how hot they're gonna be. I'm still gonna dice these jalapenos up rather small, so that way if we do get a hot piece, it's not gonna be too unbearable. And if you were handling incredibly hot peppers, I would recommend that you do this with gloves. I'm gonna make sure I wash my hands really, really well, but I still run the risk of having super hot jalapeno hands going forward. Maybe a couple of seeds in here too, which will add to the spice profile. So we're gonna call that good on the jalapenos. We can always add more, but we can't take away. Now I'm gonna grab us some garlic. This is some homegrown garlic. This looks like it's a soft neck variety. I don't 100% remember all of the ones that I grew. I don't remember if I grew Enchelium red or Chestnut red, but I grew one of them. And then I grew like a German porcelain or something like that. Again, I don't fully remember, so we're just gonna wing it. And garlic it tastes good. We're heavy garlic eaters here, so. And these are very delicate cloves. Like, they're not like the store-bought cloves that are overly hardy in terms of like, it takes a lot to crush them. These ones crush pretty well. So we're gonna get them peeled, and then I'll mince them on up. I'm still gonna dice these jalapenos up rather small, so that way if we do get a hot piece, it's not gonna be too unbearable. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab another one. Let's grab this guy. I think this came from a different plant. And if you were handling incredibly hot peppers, I would recommend that you do this with gloves. I'm gonna make sure I wash my hands really, really well, but I still run the risk of having super hot jalapeno hands going forward. There's going to be a couple of seeds in here too, which will add to the spice profile. So we're going to call that good on the jalapenos. We can always add more, but we can't take away. Now I'm going to grab us some garlic. This is some homegrown garlic. This looks like it's a soft neck variety. I don't 100% remember all of the ones that I grew. I don't remember if I grew Enchelium red or Chestnut red, but I grew one of them. And then I grew like a German porcelain or something like that. Again, I don't fully remember, so we're just gonna wing it. And garlic it tastes good. We're heavy garlic eaters here, so. And these are very delicate cloves. Like, they're not like the store-bought cloves that are overly hardy in terms of like, it takes a lot to crush them. These ones crush pretty well. So we're gonna get them peeled, and then I'll mince them on up. And all I do is I'm very careful I lay my knife on top of the garlic clove and then fingers up and palm down and just a quick pound on there, and that'll break this outer shell and it'll make it easier for you to peel the garlic. I could also use this jar and just use the jar to smash it. So whatever you prefer and is safest for you. Now I'm just going to get these all minced up. This is another reason why I really like my garlic press, because the garlic will move around a lot and it's very easy to cut your finger when you're mincing garlic. So as of right now, all of our mincing is done. I'm gonna go ahead and take some of this freeze-dried garlic and I'm just gonna crush it up. Into our salsa. You can 100% use fresh cilantro. I just don't have any on hand. All of the stuff I grew in the garden bolted. I've actually never used freeze-dried cilantro to make garden fresh salsa, so we're about to find out how well that's going to turn out. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of lime or lemon juice. We'll see which one I have in there, and then some salt, and we're going to mix it all up, give it a taste test, and we're going to let it marinate for a little bit because we need the flavors to infuse, and then we'll adjust a little bit if necessary. A lot of people would prefer to use fresh limes and or fresh lemons. I don't have either on hand, but I do have some pure lemon juice, so I'm just going to add a little bit of it. And then I'm going to add some salt and we'll give this a mix. I may add just a dash of cumin because I do really like cumin in salsa. Oops. So we're going to add, I don't know, we'll start about there. We'll mix this on up. Okay. Of course, we have a Costco size bag of chips. So let's go ahead and grab a chip and not break the chip. Okay, apparently we're just gonna break chips. And we're gonna give this a taste test. It's got a beautiful heat to it. It's not too much. It's quite perfect. It does need more salt. And I do think a lime juice probably would have been better. I just don't have any. There's definitely plenty of cilantro, and that cilantro flavor, it has not infused yet. It is still reconstituting a little bit, and that will also just improve the flavor profile even more as this sits and marinate. All right, everyone, it is time to get the ground meat going. We are having ground elk for our taco meat, and I don't actually think that I have butter beans. Shoot. But I don't have any canned beans, which is a little unfortunate, if I'm honest, but that's okay. I don't know. I'm not going to use them for tacos. Normally we have pinto beans. We don't have any. I haven't made more. I usually can my own pinto beans, and we've been out for a while. I just haven't had time to get to it, and that's okay. So it's gonna be a beanless evening. But what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go ahead and get some beef tallow on our skillet to add some grease to this pan, because ground elk is a very lean meat. And so we're just gonna add in a little bit of fat here. And I just coat the bottom really nicely And then we're gonna go ahead and open up this freezer package of ground elk. We're gonna go ahead and break this up and we're gonna get it nice and browned. I also have some garlic that's been in the fridge from the other day, so we're gonna go ahead and get this minced up and we'll just add it into the taco meat. This meat is just slightly frozen still because I pulled it out yesterday morning. Or, what day did I pull it? It's still just a little bit frozen, which I find weird. Anyways, that's okay. The meat is gonna cook up just fine. I'm just gonna go ahead and get it broken apart so it thaws even faster. While we're waiting on this to brown, I'm gonna go ahead and mince the rest of this garlic up. I'll add the garlic right as the meat is finishing up. I'm using a cast iron skillet to brown my meat. You can use whatever skillet you have. I just prefer to cook with cast iron because it's naturally non-stick. It's lacking all the chemicals that come with a standard non-stick pan. You could also go with stainless steel. I just haven't mastered stainless steel yet, and so I just stick with my cast iron skillet. This was perfect for my needs, perfect for our needs here at home, and this will take about 10 minutes for us to get this meat completely browned up. And then our meat is ready to go. Our salsa is ready to go. I did add a dash of cumin, and the salt had time to saturate the rest of the ingredients, and the cilantro reconstituted, and so the salsa is delicious. I may or may not chop up an onion because I would have to chop up a whole complete onion to add to this dish. But we shall see. If my husband doesn't want to add the salsa to his tacos, I will dice up an onion for him. Same goes with the tomatoes. If we're gonna throw the salsa on top of our tacos, there's no reason for me to dice up any tomatoes. So I'm just waiting on him to get home with the lettuce. And we have pickled peppers that I made from peppers that I grew in our garden. It has banana peppers, sweet peppers like bell peppers, Marconi peppers, and it has one tiny hot jalapeno in it. And it's the perfect amount of heat. It's a beautiful pickle taste. My coworker shared with me an open crock pickling recipe, and it's made delicious pickles, and I decided to give it a try with peppers, and I'm beyond excited for it. And then my mom, a few weeks back, made pickled onions, and she gave us a jar of pickled onions. So we have pickled onions that we can throw on top, so we don't necessarily need a diced onion. And that's it. I may go ahead and shred some cheese because I don't believe we have enough cheese. But other than that, it's just browning the meat, dicing up lettuce, and cheese. You can use any kind of ground meat as well. I need to stop messing with this. I have a bad habit of messing with the ground meat. Just let it go and let it brown. I can't seem to leave it alone, so it doesn't brown the way that it should all the time. But I'm gonna go ahead and shred some cheese. What was I saying? I was saying you can use any type of ground meat that you want. You can use ground chicken, you can use ground turkey, you can use ground beef, elk, bison. You don't even need to use ground meat. You can use shredded meat. You could use chunks of meat of any kind of whatever you're choosing. And if you're a vegetarian, you could always do riced cauliflower and season it with taco seasoning. I'm not a vegetarian, so I can't really guide you in that direction necessarily. I'm sure there's other channels that you can reference for that, but we are meat eaters, so most of my recipes are going to have meat in them. But I can tell you that tacos can be made with a wide variety of meats that you have on hand and whatever suits your fancy. All right, so our ground meat is done. My husband kept an eye on it while I was shredding the cheese. And so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add our taco seasoning. So we make our own taco seasoning. We just combine all the great ingredients together and I put it in a container. I will link the recipe for the homemade taco seasoning down below. My parents found it online somewhere 10 plus years ago, and we have since modified it to what we like, and I think I've even tweaked it from what my parents had. So I can't link the original recipe, just know it didn't start as our original recipe. But for every pound of meat, it calls for 1 tablespoon of this seasoning. And so I'm gonna put a slightly heaping scoop of the seasoning. I'm also gonna add just a little bit of water to this mixture because this meat is so lean, it's incredibly dry. I actually think I may need to add just a little bit more. If you use a ground meat that has a higher fat content, this step isn't necessarily required. But I also forgot to season it while it was still on the just slightly undercooked side. And my husband turned off the skillet, and we still need to add the garlic. That's fine. We'll just chuck the garlic in as I make a mess, which is per usual for me. And we'll just get it worked in and heat it on up. We're gonna add just a little bit more water. I've probably added the equivalent of about half a cup of water here, just to make sure I get the seasoning evenly distributed, re-moisturize the taco meat. I'm burning something. What? I'm not sure. I think something's on one of these pieces, and so we're burning it up. Yeah. Couldn't tell you what specifically it is. But now our taco meat is done. My husband also brought home some lettuce, so I'm gonna go ahead and get the lettuce diced up or chopped up, and our tacos are ready to be dished up. So we have homemade pickled peppers, homemade pickled onions that my mom made. We've got some lettuce. We've got cheddar cheese, mozzarella cheese. I've got myself some corn tortillas, and my husband's gonna have the flour. We've got the homemade oh my goodness. We've got the homemade salsa. And then we've got the ground meat, and we're ready to serve. All right, these are our tacos for tonight. These are my tacos. It's my husband's tacos. And I'll see you guys tomorrow when we're gonna be cooking up some chicken wings, I think. Welcome back to Wednesday night, everybody. Tonight we are going to have pork chops, pasta, and some type of vegetable, to be determined. But I chose this meal because it is going to be a quick and easy meal. It's not going to take much to throw together, and I already did some of the prep work. My past self helped me today, and that was I like to purchase my pork in bulk at Costco, and what I'll do is then I'll package it up, and I will choose some of it just to leave plain, and then some of it I will actually turn into marinated meats. So this meat has now been marinating in my fridge for a day or two as it thawed, and then it would marinate. So we have some honey mustard pork chops that we are going to be having for dinner tonight, and I saved myself a step because I didn't have to pull it out and thaw it and then whip up the marinade, marinate the meat. I took care of it previously. It helps make for a quick and easy dinner. And I have a headache, so I need the convenience tonight. And so all I did was preheat my oven to 400 degrees. We are gonna put the pork chops into an oven-safe dish. I have a glass Pyrex pan right here. We are gonna throw this away, but I'm just gonna dump the contents of this bag into the dish. seasonings and flavorings and all. And I put honey in here and olive oil, I think. So there's still like chunks of honey and oil in here because this was in the fridge. So I just want to make sure I get most of that out because it's going to help add to the flavor profile while it cooks. So let me go throw this away and I'll show you what else we're going to do. Okay. And what I have found has been the best way to make sure my pork chops are cooked all the way through, but they don't dry out, is to actually cook them covered. And so I'm going to go ahead and get some foil out. And because I shop at Costco, I get the huge roll of foil, and honestly, I only need half of this sheet. So I'm actually only going to rip this foil in half. And so I can have this half for another day, and I will go ahead and wrap up this container. And so once the oven is preheated, I will go ahead and pop the pork chops in the oven, and I generally cook the pork chops for about 20 to 25 minutes. These seems like they were still just had like a touch of frozen to them, nothing serious. So I'm not super worried about the cooking time, but the cooking time may be just a little bit longer than it normally is for me. And so while this is taking its 20 minutes, we are also going to get the pasta going. That way we can get everything to finish at the same time, and our meal is going to come together rather quickly. So we're going to set this there, get the skillet. Now I'm going to go get my pot and fill it up with some water. I've got my water on the stove and we're going to get it boiling, and in order to season the water, which will season the pasta, but to also make sure the water boils hotter, I'm just going to add some salt to my water. I never measure this, I just eyeball it and wing it. So now we're going to go ahead and put a lid on this, and we're going to wait for this water to come to a rolling boil, and then we're going to go ahead and add our pasta. Our water has come up to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out about a cup of pasta. So pasta's really easy. The cooking directions on this is add a pinch of salt to boiling water, cook for 11 minutes because it'll bring it to about al dente where it's not mushy, but it's also completely cooked through as well. Okay, so when you are cooking pasta, after you have added it to the water, you want to go ahead and give it a stir because the pasta will at first want to stick together after it becomes wet. So you want to give it a stir, move it around. That way they're not clinging to each other and they can fully cook properly and not being obstructed by each other because they're stuck. Okay, and so now I know there's, let's see, it's currently 7:28. So in 11 minutes, our pasta will be ready and we'll just grab a strainer, coming back and stirring occasionally. I did turn the burner down just a little bit so that way we're not going to boil over, which could also delay the cooking process if you snub the flame, but we just need to keep an eye on it. Okay, so the pork chops have been in for about 12 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and flip the pork chops over so that way I can get the other side in soaking in the marinade as it cooks, and then we'll put it back in the oven and we'll probably go for another 12 minutes. Pork chops most definitely need some more time. So we'll start with 12 minutes and we'll see how that's going. And our pasta has been in for about 8 minutes. So we've got another 3 minutes left to go on our pasta, which is fine if the pasta finishes ahead of time. We'll just strain it, we'll season it and flavor it however we want. And then I'll put the lid on and the pasta will hold until the pork chops are ready to go. Our pasta is about done, and I'll show you a way that you can tell. So usually what I'll do is I'll grab a noodle and I'll let it cool off just a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and test it. If it just has a slight, like just a touch of chewy, it's perfectly done and it's not overcooked. So now the pasta is done. I'm gonna go ahead and douse it in just a little bit of olive oil to keep the noodles from sticking together now that they're no longer in water. We're gonna douse it in some olive oil. And what I like to do personally is I'll always add just a little bit of salt. I'll add some pepper. And I like to make it like an Italian, so I'll add a pinch of oregano. And a pinch of basil. This is homegrown basil and homegrown oregano, which is why I'm crushing it myself. But you can use store-bought. I used store-bought prior to me growing my own food. So, but that's all I do is I'll season it with just basic salt, pepper, oregano, and basil. And last time my husband did add just a dash of red pepper flakes. So we'll do that. And hopefully they're not too hot. There we go. And we'll let this soak. And now the pasta will hold until the pork chops are ready. We've got 3 minutes left on the pork chops, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what their temperature is rating at and if they need to go a little bit longer, just so I can gauge if it does need the full 3 minutes, because I'd rather need to cook my pork chops a little bit more than have them be overcooked, because I don't like a dry pork chop. Okay, the pork chops are starting to look like they're on the right track. But they still have a little bit more to go. They're still not quite at the 160 mark. So we're gonna tent them back up and probably let them go for another 5 minutes. So because the pork chops on this timer have about a minute left, and I'm gonna give them about another 5 minutes to go, I have zero doubts that they'll be ready to go in about the next 5-ish minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the green beans going. That way all that we're waiting on is the pork chops, and we can eat up as soon as Reed gets home for dinner. And those are gonna cook for 5 minutes, and I'm gonna add 5 minutes on to the cooking time for the pork chops, so it works out really nicely. All right, our pork chop is officially at 160 plus, so we are good to pull the pork chops out.
We were having trouble bleeding the clutch. I heard the best way to fix it was first bleed it. There's a special tool you can buy. I didn't have the tool, so I decided to make it. You can see here, I cut a piece of...
Always make sure you turn your oven off. I have a nasty habit of forgetting to turn it off, and then 20 minutes later, Reed walks into the kitchen and asked me why the oven's still on. And it's purely because I forgot, and he's currently watching me right now, smirking, because he knows it to be true. So don't forget to turn off your oven. It'll save you on your bill, your utility bill as well. So, pro tip. But dinner is ready. We're gonna go ahead and dish it up, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'll see you guys the next time we're making a quick and easy convenience dinner. All right, we're back with another weeknight dinner, and tonight we are going to be making rice and just some baked fish. Baked fish is easy, it's relatively quick, and tonight we're making ourselves up some walleye. So we're gonna have some baked walleye that we caught ourselves, and while I'm getting the oven preheated, I'm gonna go ahead and get the rice started. And then all we have to do is pop a vegetable in the microwave, and dinner's gonna come together in about 30 minutes. The rice is only gonna take about 15, and the fish will take anywhere between 17 to 25 minutes. So we've been really busy tonight. We haven't had a whole lot of time for me to make anything else or do anything more elaborate with this fish. So it is now 8 o'clock, but we're still gonna get dinner ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the oven preheating. When am I preheating it? I think we're preheating it to 400. We're gonna preheat to 400, and then we'll let it heat up. We're gonna get the fish prepped, the rice ready to go. So let's go. We're only gonna make about half a cup of rice today. For the fish, we need a sheet pan. We're gonna use some tin foil, and we're gonna cook the fish tented. That means that we are going to make sure we trap a lot of the steam and the moisture, and it's going to keep the fish, one, from drying out, so we'll have a nice, not overcooked fish if we do it right. And then I'm going to drizzle the bottom of this pan with a little bit of oil. I believe this is avocado oil, just to keep the fish from sticking. We'll go ahead and get this guy cut open if I can find my scissors. We got some nice walleye fillets. Walleye is not native here necessarily, but the fisheries do stock walleye for us, and because Reed is from Minnesota, my understanding is that walleye is native to the Minnesota area, or the state of Minnesota. He loves his walleye, and I'm not gonna lie, walleye is pretty delicious. It is a really, really good white fish that you can get from a lake. And it was actually the first meal that Reed ever made for me after our second date. So walleye holds a special place in our heart. So I'm just gonna go ahead and rub the bottom of the walleye through the oil just to help with sticking to the pan. I'm going to stagger them just a little bit, and then I'm going to drizzle a little bit of oil on top of the fish now that this hand is all covered in fish. So we're just gonna drizzle a little bit of oil, and this is also going to aid in keeping the fish from drying out. And so I'll just rub the fish down. Okay, let me wash my hands, and then we'll get this seasoned. So we're going to season it with salt. Hey babe, what do you want on the fish?
Seasonings?
Oh, new shit.
I don't know.
I don't
So
know.
we did roasted garlic and a little bit of Southwest.
Roast garlic and a touch of Southwest.
A little bit of Tony C's.
That's a lot going on there.
I know. Always is, honey.
How about we choose one? Okay, we're choosing one. Okay, so we're gonna go, this is one of my favorites. It's salt-free, no MSG, but it's the, it used to be Mrs. Dash, but now it's just called Dash. The Southwest Chipotle seasoning is really good. And because it has no salt, we'll add our own good quality sea salt. And all I'm gonna do, and you can season this a myriad of ways. You can do lemon and garlic pepper with a little bit of dill. You can do a little bit of dill and fresh lemons. We have also used butter with our fish. So there's a bunch of different seasoning options, and I can go ahead and list what we've done in the past in the description box for you. We like to experiment with the way that we cook our fish because fish is a big part of our diet because we love to go fishing. So that is, we better know how to cook it and how to cook it in a variety of ways so it doesn't get boring. We actually used to fry our walleye quite a bit, but right now I'm trying to reduce my fried food intake on top of a couple of other things. So baked fish is where it's at, but if you are going to fry some fish, some of our favorite batters to fry fish is shore lunch. We can't typically find it at our local Kroger or King Soopers, but we can find it at Safeway, Albertsons. I don't know what other brands are affiliated with those two chains, but I know Safeway and Albertsons, they're the same. So they have shore lunch, and we like the original. We've tried the beer battered, and there's a Cajun one, and they're all delicious. But those are our go-tos. I didn't grab a big enough single piece of foil, so now I'm going to go ahead and crimp all of the pieces down so that way I completely trap all of the air and the moisture, and we will be cooking this fish tented. So we're just going to crimp the sides down. Our oven is ready, and these are going to cook for about, we're going to start with 17 minutes. Some of these were a little thicker, but we'll start with 17, and that'll keep us from overcooking the fish. I'd like to go for a lower number, and then if we need to add more time, we can, but if you overcook the fish, there's no coming back from it. And so now dinner was prepped and ready to go in about 5 minutes, and now we wait. In the 17 minutes that it takes the fish to finish this timer, our rice is going to be done, and our vegetable will only take a couple more minutes as well, and dinner's going to come together in 30 minutes, which is I'm really grateful for because it is definitely after 8 now. Alright, so it's been 17 minutes since we put the fish in. Let me grab an oven mitt. We're going to pull the fish out. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and we'll determine if it needs to go in for a little bit longer or not. Ooh, but it does smell good. That Southwest seasoning is fabulous on most things. Okay, this foil is going to be really hot, so warning to you, be very careful when you do this. I'm just going to use my fingers. And the steam, when you open this, is also going to be incredibly hot, so don't have your face in the way. And also keep an eye on your fingers, watch out. And our rice just finished. Everything is gonna finish around the same time. So let me go ahead. Let's take a look. Yep, see, that steam is hot. Be very careful when you do this. That is the risk you run. All right, the fish looks like it might pop. Oh no, it's separating. So let me carefully fold this back, and I'll bring you in a little bit closer. So if you look, this right here, the fish separated, and if I use 2 forks, these pieces pull apart nicely. So our fish is in fact done. 17, see how they pull apart? Fish is in pieces right here, the way that the muscle is. And this is pulling apart really nicely. So our fish is done. So while I get the vegetable going, I'm just gonna go ahead and cover this back up just to keep the fish from drying out and cooling off. And then in about 3 to 4 minutes, our vegetable will also be ready. One of my favorite ways to prepare cauliflower is with a good quality butter. And then after it comes out, my husband doesn't like this, but I really like it, is I put some curry powder on top of it. And it just gives it a really good flavor. Some people think cauliflower has no flavor. Some people think it has a terrible flavor. I think if it's prepared right, it can be delicious. I also think it's got some really good nutritional value, I believe. I don't know. I might be confusing my vegetables, but if it's more nutritious, the better. Okay, so I just cut up almost 2.5 tablespoons of good quality butter. We're gonna lay it on top of our cauliflower. We're gonna pop it in the microwave. We're gonna set it for 5 minutes. Alternatively, what I could have done is that's also an oven safe dish. I could have popped it in the oven and steamed it in the oven while the fish was also cooking. I didn't have that kind of forethought. Like I said, it's been a busy night. So the microwave will do for now. Alright, so we've got some beautifully steamed cauliflower, we've got cooked walleye, and we have some cooked rice ready to be dished on it. Dinner is beautiful walleye. I put curry powder onto my cauliflower, and I've got butter melting on top of my rice. And that's dinner in 30 minutes. So hopefully you enjoyed this little series on some quick, easy weeknight meals that you can get done in about 30 minutes or less. And hopefully you found it beneficial and helpful. If you did, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, and leave me a comment if you have any other great recipes that you can make in under 30 minutes on busy nights when you just need to get something in people's bellies and everybody fed. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend as we're going into the weekend tonight, and I will see you guys next time. We are either in the kitchen or outside working on a car or something, but I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.